This moment is pure dread for Caitlin Clark's critics because deep down, they realize everything has shifted. Let me break it down. They believe they had Caitlin figured out. She was facing challenges, sidelined, and the fever seemed lost without her. Some even thought Diana Taurasi's bold prediction was finally materializing. They sensed weakness and eagerly took their cheap shots. But then, the Fever's surprising victory in the Commissioner's Cup completely changed the narrative. No one expected, at least of all ESPN, who seriously embarrassed themselves. I'll talk more about that shortly. This win didn't just add to the standings. It reshaped the entire season for Caitlin and the Fever in 3 major ways, which I'll cover in this video. But one thing's clear. The more Caitlin succeeds, the louder the backlash grows. And after the game, Caitlin made a statement that might just prove to be prophetic. Let's dive into what went down, how the critics are scrambling, and what we can look forward to next. Oh, and before we get started, drop a trophy emoji in the comments to celebrate this big Fever win. Let's start with this. What Fever fans witnessed was the kind of performance they'd been hoping for since the season tipped off, but almost no one expected to see by the time the Commissioner's Cup Finals rolled around. At the beginning of the season, the Fever were hyped as serious title contenders. They made splashy moves in free agency, launched a bold campaign that basically screamed, "We're here to dominate, deal with it." And of course, they had Caitlin Clark, who came back stronger and determined to elevate her game. Things started off perfectly. They crushed the sky in front of a massive 2.7 million viewers. But after that, everything seemed to unravel. Team was hit with a hate speech investigation. Caitlin suffered a 5-game injury setback, and Dana? Well, she basically pulled an Office Space move, stopped showing effort, but happily kept cashing her checks. Just when it seemed like the team was back on track, especially after Caitlin's epic return against the Liberty, things quickly spiraled again. The very next matchup turned into Gladiator Night at Gamebridge, with Mabry and JC going full Hamama mode on Caitlin while the refs practically offered them pointers. Then, to make things worse, Caitlin picked up another injury during garbage time in the game against the Storm, knocking her out of the Commissioner's Cup. So yeah, when you really look at the season's twists and setbacks, the Fever were never supposed to take down the Lynx. The odds were that low. In fact, ESPN delivered one of the most awkward, unintentional cell phones ever right in the middle of the game. More on that coming up.
ESPN posted, I think around the 3rd quarter, at least that's when I was notified about it, that the Lynx dominate the Fever to win the Commissioner's Cup. And I took a screenshot. This is totally my screenshot, so I went and I verified this because I just couldn't believe it.
I double-checked this myself. They actually left that headline up for the entire game and only corrected it once the final buzzer sounded. Absolutely wild, that. But here's what really mattered. Without Caitlin on the court, the Fever rose to the occasion and proved what they're capable of. They fell behind early, but then exploded with an 18-0 run that completely flipped the momentum. And from that point on, they never looked back. Several players delivered standout performances, but Natasha Howard was on another level. She declared she wanted to be MVP, and wouldn't you know it, she made it happen. Talk about speaking it into existence. In the end, the Fever pulled the ultimate Uno reverse card on ESPN. They took down the Lynx on their home floor. Without Caitlin Clark in the lineup, and the haters absolutely unraveled, not just because the Fever pulled off the win, but because Caitlin, even from the sidelines, ended up adding a championship to her resume.
The only strike against Caitlin Clark is that she has not won a national championship. And that is the only thing that you can put against her.
One of the main criticisms people always throw at Caitlin is that she hadn't won a championship. That's the argument that kept her off ESPN's list of the top 5 college players of all time, despite the fact that she shattered records and dragged a middle-of-the-pack team to the finals twice. And honestly, the whole so-called rivalry with Angel Reese has gotten pretty ridiculous by now. They're not even close in terms of talent or overall impact. But Caitlin's missing championship, paired with Angel's national title at LSU and her unrivaled success, has been the go-to excuse for people to argue that Angel is somehow the better player, a winner. As they like to say, that's been the default fallback for Caitlin's critics, and now? That argument doesn't hold up anymore thanks to this Commissioner's Cup victory. But, of course, the haters are already moving the goalposts. They're now claiming the Commissioner's Cup isn't a real championship, and on top of that, they argue it doesn't matter because Caitlin didn't actually play in the final game. Let's be real, that logic doesn't make any sense. And here's why.
They did win the final without her, but it's not like she's Nikola Topic or anything. The only reason they got to the final was because she had a 32-point near triple-double against the New York Liberty. They beat the previously undefeated New York Liberty after a Caitlin Clark masterclass in a game no one thought they were going to win.
Caitlin was the driving force behind the Fever even making it to that stage. She played out of her mind against the Liberty and had a major impact in the matchup against the Sun to help secure their spot. But honestly, the most bitter reactions came from the people crying that the game was somehow rigged. Those might just be the saltiest takes of all.
The real fans, all right? Capitalize the real fans of the W will find out what backroom deal YouTube made to have the Lynx throw this game. Not even cracking 60 points. That isn't even believable to the most naked eye. When we find out, we're coming for your jobs. Full force.
What's really hilarious is the double standard at play here. The same people who are downplaying this Fever win went all out celebrating Angel Reese's unrivaled championship. Pro title? Sure, but not part of the WNBA's official season structure. And get this, Angel didn't even play in her championship game. She wasn't just bench, she wasn't even in the building. But that didn't stop fans, media, and even official accounts from celebrating her win, making congratulatory graphics and using it as ammo to push the whole Angel has 2 titles. Caitlin has none narrative. But now, when Caitlin plays a huge role in getting the Fever to the final of a mid-season tournament with real prize money on the line, it somehow doesn't count because she missed the last game? And suddenly, it was rigged too? Okay. Sure, Jan. Here's what's really got the haters rattled. The Fever showed up and delivered on the big stage, without Caitlin on the floor. They beat the Lynx, the top team in the league, who came into that game at 14-2, and they did it in the Lynx's home arena even though, to be fair, it felt more like Carver North with all the Fever and Iowa fans who showed up. Still, a road win is a road win, but most importantly, this win validated the Fever's blueprint. The veterans brought in to shine in big moments stepped up when it mattered most. Natasha Howard was an absolute force. Sophie hit key shots, and when you add in the strong seasons Aliyah and Lexi are having, there's a lot to feel optimistic about. Are they flawless? Definitely not. Can we still criticize the coaching? Of course, that's part of being a fan. But the direction is promising. Remember how I said this win changed everything for the Fever in 3 big ways? Let's break those down. First, this win really takes the pressure off the Fever. You know the saying, winning fixes everything. Sophie had recently mentioned that the team felt disconnected, like they were each on their own little islands. But nothing brings a group together like winning a championship, even if it's not the ultimate one. To get there, they had to knock off the two best teams in the league, the Liberty and the Lynx. I wouldn't expect them to suddenly be flawless going forward, but the confidence is clearly back. It feels like they've come through the rough patch. And now, with Ari McDonald as a permanent addition, they've got a lot more energy and versatility compared to when Bonner was still around. Second, this win buys Caitlin some breathing room. With the weight off their shoulders, the Fever can give her more time to fully recover. There's been a lot of speculation, including from me, that Caitlin was playing through injuries early in the season and maybe came back too soon. Fever have now shown they can stay in the playoff mix without rushing her back. Fans had already been pleading with the team to let Caitlin sit longer to fully heal, and I think both she and the Fever will be more willing to take that cautious approach after this big win. In fact, we've already seen a shift. They didn't list her as a game-time decision for the next matchup against the Aces. They made it clear a full day in advance that she'd be sitting out. That's smart. Third, when Caitlin does return, fully healthy, she'll be stepping back into a team that's finding success without needing to lean on her so heavily. With Ari McDonald now locked in, the Fever can ease Caitlin back into the lineup instead of overloading her and risking another injury by forcing her to carry the team right away. And here's a bonus. Now that they're back in the contender conversation and still have cap space, they could make a move to bring in more talent before the trade deadline. That's a real problem for the critics who thought they had Caitlin cornered. They were thriving off her struggles and made sure she felt the pressure loudly and often, even if they didn't always put their names on it.
Caitlin Clark finished 9th in player voting. In fact, she finished behind one of her own teammates in player voting for the All-Star game. The pettiness has no bounds.
Let's be real, there are plenty of explanations floating around for why Caitlin Clark ended up ranked as just the 9th best guard in the All-Star player voting. And yes, I get if they didn't literally rank her 9th, but no matter how you frame it, that's how it played out. When you consider how consistently she gets double-teamed every single game, when you dig into the stats, even factoring in her injuries and a few rough performances that probably stemmed from not being fully healthy, it's hard not to see this as something intentional. This doesn't feel like a fair assessment. There's simply no way she's actually the 9th best guard.
America loves her. The fans clearly love her. The media likes her. But the players can't stand her. 9th best guard in the league. Don't try to give me the excuses of, well, she's been struggling lately, or she missed some games with injury. Come on. This is insanity. And I think it's an activist vote by the women of the WNBA who simply cannot stand her success. It's so dumb and it's so childish.
They were sending a clear message with that ranking. And for a moment, it really seemed like they had Caitlin cornered. But now, with the Commissioner's Cup victory under their belt, which gives Caitlin more time to fully recover and boosts the Fever's confidence, the entire narrative has flipped. And honestly, the haters are nervous, but it's not that they're scared to actually play against her. That's not what this is about. What worries them is that if Caitlin Clark reaches her full potential and the Fever become a powerhouse, all the spotlight will be on them. The games will keep shattering viewership records. New fans will keep flooding in. And strangely, even though it doesn't make much sense, there are people around the league who don't actually want that to happen. Here's why.
Ourselves to the NBA, but I do feel like the pay gap would be something that, we could just take a donation around the NBA. Maybe one night y'all don't go to the casinos.
I have something on this though, because it pisses me off. It pisses me off because I don't think there's anyone in America that supports the WNBA more than NBA players.
100%.
This isn't a brand new clip, but it really helps shed light on the mindset behind all this. The NBA has poured hundreds of millions of dollars into the WNBA since it started, yet nearly 30 years in, they still haven't seen a return on that investment. Without the NBA's backing, the WNBA probably would have folded a long time ago. Just last year, even with Caitlin Clark adding buzz to the league, the WNBA still lost an eye-popping $40 million. It's like the league is riding a bike with training wheels attached to the NBA. No matter how shaky things get, they somehow managed to stay upright. What Caitlin offered was the chance to take those training wheels off. But as anyone who's learned to ride a bike knows, you're going to fall a few times before you get it right. In this case, those falls are coming from casual fans who aren't there purely to cheer on women's basketball, no matter what they want entertainment. And they're quick to criticize, just like fans in any sport. We see that all the time with Angel Reese and her supporters. Going back to that Lisa Leslie clip, it seems like many players are so used to the league, just chugging along no matter the financial losses, that they've developed two major attitudes. One, arrogance, that the league can never fail. And two, a sense of entitlement. If the league ever starts turning a profit, the logical first step should be to repay the investors a bit before players start asking for raises. But that's not how the players seem to be thinking. They're already talking about striking, wrongly assuming casual fans will rush back once it's over. At the same time, they feel free to trash Caitlin and, by extension, her fans, while still expecting to get what they want. Honestly, I don't think they even care if those casual fans come back. What they want is the old WNBA, a one with less pressure, less scrutiny, and fewer changes shaking things up.